All right, so you have, if you aren't going to do shadow Uchikomi, then you could use one of these bands. If you happen to have them, you can also buy them on Amazon or Fred Meyer, because Fred Meyer's still open and they have a sports section. I prefer the tubing. You don't need to get one of these fancy ones with the handles. Sometimes you can just find this elastic tubing, and that's fine too. Or you can use these. This one, the tube is the one I prefer. It fits inside a door really well, and it's just a little bit easier to use than these bands. This band would work good if you could tie it behind something, or not necessarily tie it, but put it behind a post to use it. But when you try to stick it in the door, it's a little bit too thick. So depending on the door, it might not shut. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the tubing. The first thing, if you noticed, is I tied it in a knot. And the reason I do that is so that when I pull on it, it's not going to fling out of the door jamb. So I'm going to stick it into the door jamb, just like that. And so now I have my lapel and my pulling arm. Okay, the first throw in our sequence is Hizaguruma. All right, so I'm facing here as if this corner is my partner. I'm going to be doing left side because I'm facing the camera that way, but for your Uchikomi, you'll do it on either side. Okay, so key point, I'm going to step off to the side, stepping off to the side, rotating this pinky and wrist up so it's up high and pointing to the ceiling, and then rotating and touching my foot to the wall. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, stepping wide, rotating the wrist, foot. Okay, making sure the foot's turned out. One more time, wide, wrist rotated and high, foot. All right. Okay, right. Our second throw is Seoinage. You can do ippon, but I'm going to prefer morote Seoinage since I'm holding on to both straps. Stepping across with my foot and pretending that I'm stepping in front of the person's foot. Stepping across, lifting up and rotating this wrist up high above my head, and then rotating here with my feet. One more time, stepping up and across while pulling up and rotating my feet. Really important here that you make sure your feet are in the right position, meaning that they're side by side and I'm on my balls of my feet. My heels are a little bit up. All right, one more time. Lifting up, stepping across, pivoting. Notice that I pivot on this foot right here. Here. Ogoshi is our next throw. Now for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both bands into one hand because the emphasis is going to be pulling the sleeve of your opponent, and I'm going to use my free hand to go underneath to grab and hug, imaginary grab and hug. So this time, lifting up, rotating the pinky and stepping across. So 1, hug, 2. 1, 2. Now it's going to be a little weird because you don't actually have anything to hug in this scenario, but try your best to focus on your hand rotation and the pull, doing it at the same time with your step. Our next throw is Tsukomigoshi. If you don't like Tsukomigoshi and you prefer something like Haraigoshi or Uchimata, you can change it up a little. So for Tsukomigoshi, it's really important that the lapel hand, the hand that's on the person's lapel, stays in your opponent's armpit. Okay, so unlike Seoinage where you bring it in and keep it tight to your body, the elbow, I'm going to keep the elbow in my imaginary partner's armpit. Okay, so this time, same hand for the sleeve, pinky up, okay, stepping across, lifting here to put my elbow in my imaginary partner's armpit, and then rotating here. So that would be Tsukomigoshi. Okay? If you're doing Haraigoshi or Uchimata, you're going to step a little bit more in the middle, so stepping in the middle instead of across, and then doing a T-step here. Again, hands are high, my body is low, my knees are bent, and this elbow is going into that person's armpit this way. That chest-to-chest contact is what you're pretending to get. step here. And then if you had room, you could kick, but I don't. Next is Osotogari. Make sure that when you do this, the direction that you're going, the bands aren't getting crossed. See, if I go this way, they get really crisscrossed. So make sure you're going this way. So if the pulling hand of the sleeve is the band that's on the top here. I'm gonna take a big step, boom, with my pulling hand as well, pulling out and across my body. And then I'm gonna put my shoulder into the band, pulling here. So one, and then the key being that sliding, pointing foot. So you can hear my foot slide on the ground as I kick up. So step, pull, kick. Step, pull, pinkies out, kick. All right, that's what you're working on there for Osoto. Okay, Oichi we can do one of two ways. If you're doing it with the bands, you're gonna be in a corner, so you can't hit your body to the corner. That's just really awkward. But you can practice the pull down with the sleeves, pulling down and rotating your thumbs in like this with your T-step. So right, left, and then circle here. So I can practice this piece. One, stomp with the ball of my foot, and then reap. That's a good practice. Now, if you don't have the bands, or if this is awkward for you, you can always practice against a wall by putting your hands on the wall and practicing 1, 2, and then trying to get this body contact from your chest down to your hips. Here. Don't break your parents' wall. They won't be happy. So don't slam into it, but you can practice that body contact. It's also a really good skill. Kouchigari is next. We're going to practice it with that step as if our partner was stepping and walking with us. So I'm going to step forward and step back. When I step back, I'm going to pivot back to make that T-step here. And then I'm going to sweep and come back. 1, 2. And we want to make sure our hands are working. So let's not forget about that. Once we get our pattern of doing our T-step here, I'm going to start pulling my hands together here. I'm going to rotate the sleeve hand into my body like this, rotating my palm up, and also rotating the collar hand up, bringing the hand and the elbow together. So 1, and then don't forget to add your little sweep, cupping your foot. Here. All right, so switching down to our judo skills and drills, we're going to work on our wall squats first. So if you're not super skilled yet, make sure that you start with about maybe 4 inches, almost a hand width from the wall, and then practice squatting back. Okay, if you can do this without touching the wall with your knees, your chest, or your face, then you can challenge yourself and try to get a little bit closer here. Important things to keep in mind are that this is not a speed drill. So I don't want you to do it as fast as you can. I want you to do 10 reps as best as you can, doing it nice and slow and controlled, making sure you're going all the way down. Oops, see, I had touched my face, and that's okay. I just got to practice. I'm not at Jericho's level yet, so keep practicing. Other things, make sure that your feet are underneath your hips and your shoulders, not super wide and not too close. And then try to avoid having duck feet. Try really hard to make sure your feet are parallel and pointing forward. Here. If you're really struggling and you can't keep your balance, slow it down. Take your time and let your body feel your balance. But if you're still really struggling, go to where there's a doorknob, okay? And then you can start practicing here. And as you start to lose your balance, you can just gently use your fingers to kind of keep yourself from falling back. Try your best to not use your hands as much as you can and focus on listening to your body. Okay, so the next activity we're gonna do is the wall push-up. In case you forgot what it looks like, it's just us doing a push-up pressed up against a wall. So my feet are gonna be with my toes curled underneath and my feet flat up against the wall. And Frankie here. And I'm gonna lay down first. So don't start until you've laid down. My hands need to be in line with my chest here. So I'm gonna place them right next to me. Not super wide, that works a different set of muscles in a different area. We're gonna stay just inside, not too tight, just inside. My elbows are still kind of pushing out. And then I'm gonna go ahead and press up. And I'm gonna assume my push-up position. So in this position, I'm gonna go down, and I always make sure my chest touches first and not my hips, and then push up. So don't let your hips touch first like this. Always focus on your chest touching first. If that starts to become really hard for you, you can drop down to the modified version or the knee version, and it's totally okay. So the reason that's okay is I would never go into a weight room and put 125 pounds on you or however much you weigh and tell you to lift it. We would work our way up to there. So you might be able to even do 10 of these push-ups for 1 or 2 sets. And then as things start to get hard, you might need to modify and drop the weight a little bit so that you can finish. So going down to my knees, same idea. Just kidding. I'm gonna scoot all the way back. I'm gonna put my legs flat up against the wall this time. Hands are gonna be down by the chest still, and I'm gonna lead with my booty, okay? So chest goes down first. Hips always stay up. Hi, Frankie. And then back up. All right, the next activity we're gonna do is we're gonna do pivot uchikomi. So we're focusing on our feet and rotating and pivoting on that lead foot. And I'm going to use Frankie's toy as my partner. All right, so I'm going to start in between right here. If you want, you can set up these sandals. I prefer to pick dots. You can also put blue tape down if you want to be able to see where you should be stepping. I like the blue tape because you can actually place it where you should be stepping. So mark it right, left, and things like that so you remember. I like that version, but this is good too because you're practicing staying in between your partner's feet. So emphasis is stepping on the ball of my foot and pivoting on the ball of my foot here. And then when I go back to the other side, I'm going to step with my left because judo players need to be ambidextrous, meaning that they need to be able to do things on both sides. So this time I'm going to step on my left foot and pivot on this front foot here. Okay, step with my right foot and pivot. So we're alternating right, left, right, left. This is my pretend partner. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Frankie's practicing too. Okay, so the next activity is going to be Seoi Hops. So we're here as if we've got Seoinage. Boom, here. We're gonna hop, hop, and then rotate. Hop, hop, and rotate with that throw. Boom, here. We're gonna switch to left side, here. Hop, hop, rotate. Ooh, don't fall backwards. Stay forwards here. Next activity is pulling arms. You can do that with the bands like we practiced, or you can just do them by yourself. But focus is here, hands are straight forward, just as if you were gripping the gi, rotating these pinkies up and pulling straight back. You want to squeeze your shoulder blades like you're trying to squeeze an orange. So, 1, 2, 3. Notice that I hold it for just a second. Judo sweeps. On these ones, we're going to step and pull down. We're going to sweep. Same arm as the pulling arm. Pull down. Notice that my foot is all the way rotated to the side. And my leg is straight. Step, pull down, sweep. Straight leg, foot turned out. 1, 2. Notice that my foot has control all the way from my hips down to my toes. I don't have floppy feet. My knees aren't floppy. Everything is nice and controlled. I also push my hips forward. This allows me better extension to reach my opponent. Don't lean too far back, but you do want to have your hips forward here and not back like this. You can record yourself doing these exercises and see what you look like so you can see if you're doing things correctly. Right now I'm doing it incorrectly. My hips are back. I'm going to fix my posture. I'm going to push my hips a little forward. You try it. We're going to do our jumping drills with our belts. I'm going to lay it down here and I'm going to do my ski jumps just like we did with our partners. I'm going to go forward and backward. I'm going to do my 3-legged jump. And I can't necessarily do my high jump, but you could still practice it by making sure that you're just emphasizing the knee tuck that you would need to do if somebody was in a turtle position. So I would just go here. All right, so what we did was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which is kind of focused on tachiwaza, and Tuesdays and Thursdays we're focusing on our newaza drills. So we're going to start with hip switches, and hip switches are going to look a little bit like this. We start in a plank position, and I'm going to sit my leg across and through, and I'm going to try and touch my knee to my arm here. I don't sit down all the way. I stay perched up. I come back to my plank position and then switch back this way. So next activity is booty scoots. I'm gonna scoot, but I also want to practice the rock and work on my core. So we're gonna booty scoot and we're gonna rock back, and I'm gonna push my feet to the ceiling and try to pick up my hips. Figure fours. So figure fours would be Uchikomi for doing the triangle choke from the guard. So I'm gonna lean back, I'm gonna rock back, I'm gonna push my feet and my hips up here, just like we did with the booty scoots here. And then I'm going to do a figure four. So I'm gonna turn my knee out and then press down. See how my leg makes the number 4? And then I'm gonna press down and touch the ground. I'm gonna come back up. I'm gonna go the other way. Knee goes out, foot comes down, make a 4, press down. Okay, so now we're gonna do ebi. If you've got space in your living room, you can practice your ebi just like you would in the dojo, just go all the way down. But if you are tight for space, then you can do it in place. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. My feet stay planted on the ground, and I'm going to push down for my ebi and pivot my hips back by using my legs. Here, I pivot on my shoulder, my hips are up, here, and then I come back. And I switch to the other side. I just keep my hips off the ground here. All right, next exercise is reverse ebi. This one's a little bit more difficult to do in place, but you can still do it. Emphasis is on the bridging. So not so much moving, just the bridging action. I'm going to start with my feet planted on the ground. I'm going to reach down and touch my leg. And from here, I'm going to bring my hands up above my head. You could imagine that you have a bucket of water and you're trying to throw it above your head. But you scoop here then I pivot again on this shoulder. I'm pivoting on this shoulder and I'm bridging to the other side. Here, touch my leg, scoop my hands up to my head, pick my hips up, pivoting on my shoulder, switch to the other side. So I'm alternating my shoulders. Pivot on this shoulder, pivot on this shoulder. Next on the drill is Yokoshiho Hip Switch. This is just the pulling drill, except I'm just focusing on switching my hips from Yokoshiho. So it's a little hard. Maybe if you have hardwood floors, you could slide across the floor, but I'm not going to pull myself against this carpet. So I'm just going to practice staying in my Yokoshiho. I'm going to practice the hip switch. So for this to be a good hip switch, nothing is ever going to come off the ground. My foot is going to slide across the ground, keeping my elbows on the ground. Here. Nice and strong. And I'm going to slide this foot and pivot back. Switch to the other side. Again, my hips never leave the ground. Sliding here. I don't lift my hips up to switch. Stay here. Foot slides. You're pivoting on this booty cheek right here. Elbows stay on the ground. You try it. Bridges is next. You guys know how to do this. So I'm laying on the ground. I bridge to the top of my head and touch. I'm going to go to the left and touch. And I'm going to go to the middle, keeping my shoulders on the ground. Squeeze those butt cheeks. 1, 2, 3. That's 1. 1, 2, 3. That's 2. You do a set of 10, 3 times. Okay, our last drill is going to be with our belt. Now we don't have a ladder, so we're going to use the belt and we're going to use our hands to practice our hand coordination. And you would move all the way down the belt. You obviously can make it harder by going the whole length of your belt. You should be able to do the whole length of your belt because we've done that at the dojo with our speed ladders. The next one is going to be pushing and jumping. You do that down the length of the belt. All right, competition team. I'm really proud of you for sticking with this whole COVID-19 quarantine and social distancing. I hope again that you are taking care of yourself, taking care of your family. If you've got time, try to fit these workouts in. Mix it up if you need to, but that structure's there if you need it. Let me know if you have any questions. You can message me on Facebook or Instagram.